You cannot be a strong, resourceful, resilient leader if you are everybody's best friend. You can't do it because some of the decisions you're going to have to make, your responsibilities to the organization. And people say to me, well, why do you say it's not about the organization, it's about the people? I love the people. Exactly. The success of the organization feeds all the families of all of your employees.
Welcome to the Women Choosing Growth podcast, where we bring you practical advice and guidance on how to grow your business and achieve success in your entrepreneurial journey. We feature inspiring stories of success, challenges of growth, and lessons learned from women entrepreneurs, industry experts, and thought leaders who have been through the growing pains inevitable as an entrepreneur. Whether you are just getting started or are looking to scale up your business, our show is designed to provide you with the tools, resources, and community you need to grow your business. Join your host, Tina, a lifelong entrepreneur and business growth advisor, as we explore topics such as marketing, sales, finance, leadership, and personal growth, all tailored specifically to the needs of women entrepreneurs. So if you're ready to grow your business faster and smarter, and learn from the experiences of those who have traveled the growth path before you, then this podcast is for you. Thanks for tuning in, and let's get started.
Welcome back, listeners. I am super excited for our guest today, Vicky Brown, because this topic and her expertise is what every single one of you listening needs to sit down or pay attention, maybe even grab a notebook, because you cannot scale your business without having the right people on your team and the right amount of people on your team for that next level of growth. So it is all about recruiting and getting the right people on your bus today. And that is what Vicky is here for. So welcome, Vicky.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here today.
I am super excited. I've been waiting for this episode for a few months now, actually, from the last time when we chatted. Before we dive into, I know you have some great action items of what really entails getting those right people on the bus at the right time so that we're positioned for growth and all of that fun stuff. But I know your journey is very similar to mine, that you actually were in corporate America until 2001. Right? Which is literally the same year that I started my business, right? Between 2000 and 2001. And I also was in finance and HR prior. So we've got a couple decades of experience.
Exactly.
Lots of decades if you add our experience together. But why don't you tell me like how that shift happened between corporate America and finding yourself as this entrepreneur helping other entrepreneurs?
Sure. Well, it's a little unusual and not unusual at all. So I was on the corporate side. I had a couple of gigs, I'll say, in corporate America, and the last one was for a technology company that specialized in financial services. So I won't even go into what we were doing, but in any event, it was something that had been founded by individuals who had been at large financial services firms before. So I like to say there were adults in the room, and it was a really a great business. Unfortunately, around 2001 is when technology and the whole technology sector was taking a hit. 2000. 99, 2000, 2001. And so we actually couldn't continue our funding because the entire sector was taking a little bit of a dive. So the business closed in February of 2001. And the president of that company, I was the chief HR officer, the president of the company came to me and said, you might think about having your own HR company because you basically built this HR. I was employee number, 10 or something.
Sure.
And when we finally closed, we were at 420 or something like that. So he said, you built this from nothing. I gave you no money to do it. And you built this entire HR infrastructure. And I think that's a business. So you should really think about doing that. And I was like, wow, that's really interesting. Absolutely not. I'm going to go get a job.
Thanks, but no.
Thank you now. And he said, why not? And I said, I'm a great number two. I'm HR. I'm the chief HR executive. I sit on the shoulder of the CEO. and whisper sweet nothings in their ear about, did you think about this? Did you think about that? And I'm their confidant. I'm their HR priest, if you will. I'm the person they can talk to and tell anything within a safety net. And
Mm-hmm.
so I'm a great number two. Number one is not my aspiration. Thank you very much for that, pat on the back, but I'm going to go find a job now.
Mm-hmm.
He said, fine. In April of that year, he called. He said he had a new job. He was in California. The majority of the team was in New York. He's like, I don't know what needs to happen. I know we need like a handbook or something like that because you taught me all those things. I don't know what
Of
it
all the
is.
things, I need
All
a
the things.
handbook.
Exactly.
This was back in the paper days, though. Everyone had
Exactly.
a
Exactly.
binder as a handbook. So,
Precisely. And it's funny you say that because that was the thing that actually impressed him because I got us off of paper, but it was the dark ages. So I was sending around little discs, like our new hire
uh,
package was on a little
sure.
disc, and we would mail it out to the candidate. And he's
Yep.
like, oh,
Yep.
that's so fancy. So,
Mm-hmm.
but so he asked me to help him with that business on the HR side. And he said, we're a new business. I can't afford you. And so can you be an independent contractor? And I'll just maybe get us up and running. And I was like, okay, but this is what an independent contractor. He's like, I know, I know, I know. So I did all of that.
Right. You had to school them on the difference between employee and
Exactly.
1099. Yep. Awesome.
Exactly. And so by the time we got to August, he had added one thing after another, after another, after another. And my compliance gene, which he knows well, kicked in. And I was like, listen, I have access to confidential information for your employees. You're paying me to do stuff. I'm setting up payroll. You need protection. I need protection. I need a corporate veil. You need me to have insurance. All this stuff needs to happen. I'm going to incorporate. And he's like, good, because that was his plan all along.
I was gonna say, it sounds like that was his intention. I can't put you on payroll, but I can 1099 you until you
Uh-huh.
figure it out.
Uh-huh. That is
Figure it out
exactly
that this is what I'm doing.
that's exactly right. So
Yes.
that's the origin story of Udomineo. And you know, when I think about it, what always pops out to me is that this is an excellent example of someone who saw something in someone that the person didn't see themselves. I had
Mm-hmm.
no idea. And this is one of the best, most frightening, most engaging, most rewarding, most ridiculous, most terrifying thing that I've ever done. And I love it. And I had no idea. I didn't have aspirations to be an entrepreneur, but it really is in my blood. And he could see it, and I couldn't.
Yes, that's awesome. And that's that part of entrepreneurism is in quite a few people who accidentally stumbled into it, or they were encouraged by others to do it, not willing. But
Hmm.
we're glad that you're here and that you have now decades worth of experience working with people just like all of us. So, what does your team look like now?
So we're just under 20 people. We work with
Okay.
clients nationwide. So, and we don't send out little discs anymore.
I remember burning those discs too because we had our whole operations manual on there, the HR manual on there. It
Hmm.
was, and put a custom label on it on our
Right.
little dot matrix, printer. The
Exactly.
young people listening right now just don't understand what I'm talking about, but you do.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah, I mean we're still young too, but
Yes, we
yes, it was a different world from recruiting and onboarding, and then engaging and having the right culture to keep and retain those employees than it is now. It's a different world.
are. Exactly.
So let's dive in. I know one of the things you're most passionate about is really the first step of this for the people listening. They're in growth mode again. We'll double down on this. You literally cannot scale without having additional people besides you as the owner, or or two owners if you're a partnership. Um, and I've made this mistake in my early days, and I talk about it frequently because I want to make sure other people don't. Is like I, move people up in the ranks instead of having the skill coming in, and so there's a lot of episodes that talk about my early blunders. But what I learned was pay for what you need at the before you need it, and just like it's an investment. People are an investment, and you have to be thinking a year or so down the road. I would love to get into your opinion on that,
Yeah.
but let's talk about finding the right people right away.
Yeah, sure, no problem. So I'll do an umbrella statement and say everything you just said, ditto. But moving on to how do you then find the right people? Um, so
Actually,
when we,
let's
yeah,
back up. Let's go even a step back and say, before you even find the people, when should you be looking for that next position? We know if we have to replace someone, it's
mhm,
immediate. But when should these owners be even thinking about, I am looking at this kind of growth, or I want to do X, Y, and Z in the next year, 5 years? Like
mhm.
where does that
You're
even
out,
process
yeah.
start?
I mean, you're definitely on to the right thing because it's all about what is your business plan? What
Yep.
are what's the vision for the next 1 year, three? We actually do 3 year arcs for our business plan. So, what is the vision for us? For what is the vision for the next 3 years? Where do you want to grow? What kind of additional products do you want to roll out there for clients? um, what seems to be working but needs a little gasoline on the fire, what isn't working at all that maybe you're going to, ultimately sideline. All of those kinds of things. What kind of things are happening in the environment that have nothing to do with you? Hello, AI,
Hmm.
that
Yeah.
might impact might impact your business. And you're going to need to address that. So the thought process for the business owner is a lot more intense, that it's not just a passing thing. Oh, we are at capacity. I think I'll add a person.
Mm.
That is the worst way to decide to bring on another person. They're your most expensive, um, uh, resource and your most important resource. So to give it kind of a passing thought and knee jerk reaction, that is the wrong way to go about it. You want to make sure you're bringing in people who are going to have the talent and the skill to take you to the next level. So, for instance, we got to the place where I realized that, okay, now we're finally here. I won't even say when this was, but because it was later than it should have been. But
We've
now we're
arrived.
exactly, we're finally here. At a place where, you know what, I've been delegating things out. I've been, trying to make sure I'm getting things off my plate, et cetera, et cetera. But in fact, we need a leadership team. We need a
Hmm.
senior group of individuals that I can bring together that will help move the company forward. And some of that talent was internal, and ultimately some of the talent, because it's a growing entity now, some of that talent will come from outside. But that was a business that grew from a business need, and that's what you have to look at, because otherwise you will have a bloated headcount and you still won't get you won't get what you really need for your business. So look at your 3 year plan or your 1 year plan if you're doing a 1 year plan, and really look at what you want to add, what you don't want to add. Where are the stressors in your business right now? Maybe everything's going along fine and you don't want to add anything. But oh, think about it. Maybe you have like a couple of really high performing people and they are absolutely underwater. You need to think about what kind of load you might be putting on those folks. Does it
Hmm.
need to be spread around? Are you not spreading it around because maybe there isn't the same level of expertise with other people? Is that a training thing? Maybe you need someone to actually handle training inside your organization. So it's those kinds of things that you need to think about before you start thinking about adding heads.
Hmm.
Um, there are some instances where it's just going to be a capacity issue. You got to have all the people in the right seats, and you're just taking on more business, and so you need additional folks to support that capacity. That happens too. But even if that's going to happen, look at the folks who are most successful in your organization and start modeling what you're looking for after them. Because very often, particularly, and you have HR experience, so the first thing that happens is the hiring manager says, okay, we need a job description. Well, yes, you do need a job description, but that
Hmm.
may not be as valuable as you think it is in the recruiting process. You need to know what skills you need. You need to know what experience you're looking for. You need to know what this person is going to be doing on a daily basis. But when you go out there and you start looking for them, I see so many job postings that are simply a job description. It's a list.
Basically, yes.
It's
Bullet
just
pointed tasks.
exactly. And it's just like every other 5,000 listings of jobs on that same page.
Hmm.
You want to stand out because just like you want to attract the best, and emphasis on the word attract. And so that plays right into what you're doing as an entrepreneur in attracting the right client. You don't want to have to always go out there and hunt for the right client. You want to attract them. You want to have synergy. You want to have some sort of resonance that they recognize, wow, what you do is exactly what I need. That's
Mhm.
exactly what you're looking for in the right talent. You want them to say, you know what? The way you do it, what you do, how you offer me an opportunity in my career, that's exactly what I'm looking for. And I'm a high performing individual and I want to be in a high performing environment. So you have to sell that, you know?
Mhm.
So again, I always say recruiting is a marketing exercise. And you really have to think of it that way. So when you think about doing a job posting versus a job description, the posting is really an advertisement. Yes, you're going to put some skills in there. Yes, you're going to put some requirements in there because you want people to be able to self select if they completely are wrong for the job.
Mhm.
Now, it's
Which
questionable as to whether.
I do love that in the exit left.
Mhm.
Some of the job posting boards have that, like, if you're not even going to look at someone that doesn't have these three skills,
Right.
that's tangible, they can self-select. So you, as the entrepreneur, business owner, isn't, going through resumes that don't even hit the top level of
Right,
quality.
that's right. And it's
Mhm.
because when you do a job posting, you are going to get 1,000 resumes. It's going to
Oh
happen.
yeah. Oh, it is. And they're not going to be 1,000 of the ones you want.
They won't. And so that's also planning. As an entrepreneur, as a business owner, you're not doing recruiting all day every day. If you're looking for someone to fill a position in your job, understand that's going to be a project for you for a minute and figure out how you're going to address that project.
Mhm.
Because if you don't, you're just going to get all these resumes. You will look at 15 of them. You will lose your mind. You'll try to figure out how in the world you're going to get through the rest of these.
Yeah.
And then you'll everything will go left. You'll either just hire the first person you interview
Mhm.
that looks like they have less than three heads, and because
Mhm.
you want to stop the
They
project,
showed
you want to
up.
be exactly, you want to be done with this whole thing,
Mhm.
or you just won't hire anybody at all, and that doesn't serve you either. So plan when you go into this. Know it's going to take your time and get help. You do not have to do this by yourself. You don't have time to go through 1,000 resumes. I'll tell you, I'm going to be your mom now. You don't have time to go through 1,000 resumes.
You shouldn't be. That's not the job of an entrepreneur.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, and we come from, the beginning of our businesses. If your audience is like me, you're the everything.
Yep.
Chief bottle washer, taking out the trash, doing the marketing plan.
President and peon is what I called it.
I
President and
love it.
peon. I am making executive decisions in the same time I'm scrubbing the toilet at the
That
office.
is exactly right. And so that's what we're used to doing. We're used to doing whatever needs to happen
Mhm.
to make sure it gets done. When you start growing your business, you have to get in the right people and delegate, delegate, delegate. So,
Yes, amen to that.
when you go out there and you start looking at the posting, et cetera, be a little unusual because you want unusual talent. So don't just say, this is what I'm looking for, this is what I'm looking for. Tell them what you can offer them. I love video, and I know that that can kind of, you know, go against some people like, oh, I don't want to be on video, I don't want to do that. But video is one of the most easily, what I want to say, it's one of the things that allows for the most easy level of communication. So you
Mhm.
can really, you know, get a feel for who that person is. Have a link in your posting to the manager, the hiring manager, so they can say, this is what I'm looking for. These are the kind of people who've been successful in the job. So people can get an idea of who am I going to be talking to every day? Who am I going to be working with? Think about doing a day in the life. People want to
Mhm.
know, what is my job going to look like when I walk in there on maybe not day one, but day 12, what is that going to look like? Is it mostly a solo pursuit? Are they mostly doing research in a room by themselves all day, every day? Or will they be interacting and collaborating with other team members? And maybe it's a mix. Most jobs are. Maybe you have lots of team meetings in the afternoons or in the latter part of the week. But in the beginning part of the week or the beginning part of the day, they can really focus in and do some deep work. Those are the kinds of things, again, you're showing yourself to understand what their needs are and think about career pathing. I had a coach once.
Before we go into career pathing, I've
Sure.
got a couple questions
Oh, yes,
before we
absolutely.
get too far off. So, one of the questions I get asked a lot from my clients that are recruiting is the balance between having the right keywords in the title and not being the boring job description title
Hmm.
from like Indeed or whatnot. So, and then we'll get into like more of the video stuff. But how do you balance that, having the boring words? Because that's what someone might have in their, Indeed
Hmm.
or LinkedIn search, but catching the eye of the person that you really want to
Right.
to recruit.
It it's a thing that I have struggled with, certainly, and I have to be completely transparent. I talking about delegating, one of the people I was able to bring on to my team very early on, years and years ago, is a staffing director. She is exceptional, and that is wonderful because I am not good at recruiting. So, no,
That's awesome.
it's like I'm great at HR. Recruiting is kind of just not my thing.
Hmm.
She's taught me so much. I know how to do it. I just don't love it. And she loves it and she's exceptional at it. And she also does training. So she's an invaluable resource for my clients because when they get stuck around recruiting, she can train them or she can do it herself. There are all sorts of options there. But one of the things that the keyword thing is something that she is exceptional at. I am not. So I have to say that in the past I've struggled with it, and then I got a staffing director, so I didn't have to worry about it. But these days, I got to say, I would use AI. I
That's where I was
absolutely would.
thinking. Yep. Like you literally could use the prompts in ChatGPT, in the free version of ChatGPT, and say, "I want this word in here for this attached job description," and
Exactly.
make it a
Exactly.
lot, a
And
lot.
just drill down, and you will end ultimately, it'll take a minute, but
Hmm.
ultimately, you will have something that is catchy, engaging, slightly unusual, so it
Hmm.
stands out,
And
and
authentic.
absolutely,
Hmm.
absolutely, and then still does the heavy lifting of the keyword, matching. So
Okay.
definitely use AI. I have to say I'm a little bit of an AI fan, although I am terrified. I do say please and thank you because when the robots take over, I want them to remember I said please and thank you. But
I'm glad I'm not the only one. If I look at my chat GPT prompts, I'm like, oh, that was great, as if I'm telling someone, like,
I do that
and I
every
laugh at
time.
myself.
Thanks, that's perfect. Um,
Yes.
Sidebar, that actually is valuable because then it knows what really works for you and it does retain that information. So,
I think that on the sidebar on that too, though, I think then they also learn your style of how
right.
you write, which is important for when you're writing job descriptions or anything else that's potentially, written.
That's exactly right. And
Yes.
these job postings that I'm talking about, you don't have to be, the world's greatest copywriter to try to figure out how to turn a job description into the kind of job posting I'm talking about. Again, let AI do some heavy lifting for you and turn that into an advertising style job posting, and then you can edit it. I just don't like to stare at a white piece of paper because I get stuck. But
Mhm.
you can definitely edit it and make it your own. The point is, you really need to think about this as a process where you're trying to attract talent to you.
I like that. Hmm. Yep. Not going and grab one of 10 million people who are out
Hmm.
there. You want the right person to come to you. I
Exactly.
like that. Okay,
Exactly.
so we're going to treat it as the same mentality of attracting our ideal clients. We
Hmm.
want to do that. If someone is in a lot of growth mode, does it make sense to kind of have some of those feelers out there on a regular basis to get the top talent, especially if you have a bigger team?
Yeah, it's just like your sales pipeline.
Yep.
It's got to be full all the time. It
Yep.
really does. I mean, even if you don't, and I'm not saying put up job postings that are going to ghost candidates or anything like that. What I'm
Or freak
saying
out
is,
your staff if you have a small staff.
exactly.
You don't want to post Sally's job.
Yes, that will make Sally unhappy.
Yes.
But what you do want to do is make sure that you're maintaining relationships. So maintain those relationships. And one of the things that, again, my staffing director is amazing at, we have, in the past 6 months, we brought on two people that she has maintained a relationship with for over a year.
Before hiring them.
Yes. Yes, we thought they were right for this other thing. They weren't right for it, or we thought this job was going to be right, and then the job went away for various reasons. And they were great candidates. She stayed in touch with them. She would reach out to them on a, fairly, not annoying, but fairly regular basis.
Yeah.
And then a year later, they are exactly what we're looking for at exactly this moment. And they are exceptional employees. So maintain those relationships, or have someone on your team maintain those relationships. Again, you've got a lot to do. I'm not saying you
Yes.
have to do this
Or
yourself.
hire someone, right? Hire someone to do this for you.
Exactly, exactly. So that's important, because when you get ready to bring someone on, when you get ready to look for that right person, it takes a lot more energy to start from a cold start than it does to jump on a moving train.
Yes. Yeah. Agree.
So that's my sermon on that. As far as career pathing is concerned,
Mhm.
once you get that superstar, you can't just get them in the door and have them sit in the chair and go, there you go, do the job.
Mhm.
They want to know, what is my path? What options do I have? And particularly these days, I mean, again, I've been around for a very long time. So back in my day, you just get the job and go, huzzah, I have the job.
Yes.
But today, people want to know, what is my future going to look like at this organization?
Mhm.
Do you have opportunity for me? What does that look like? If I want to get promoted to the next level, and these are questions that you're going to get asked in those first 3 months. So don't be surprised, like I used to
Potentially the
be.
interview, right?
Exactly,
It's like for the
precisely.
right person, it's the interview, so you probably want the answers.
Precisely. That's exactly right. So, again, AI can be very helpful with this. But what I was mentioning before is, I had a coach who ran a number of restaurants. She had a restaurant chain. And every single time they brought in a new person, a dishwasher, a hostess or host, uh, any member of the wait staff, the first few days they'd sit them down and literally take them through a career path. This is how you can, this would be the next job for you. These are the skills that we'd be looking for that next job. This is how we evaluate. So they had an extremely
Mm.
detailed process. Your process, my process may not be that detailed, but you really do need to understand early on, what are the qualifications you're looking for in that next job up. You really
Mhm.
should have a list of qualifications and experiences for every job in your company, because when someone walks in your door and says, how do I get to the next level? How do I become a manager? How do
Mhm.
I move up from the job I currently have? Answering with, oh, well, just get more experience. That's not sufficient. They
That's
need
not.
specifics, and you need specifics. So
Yes.
map that out.
I love the fact that you're tying this back to what you said in the beginning, which is those that are listening can go back to that plan. So if you don't have that all mapped out, go back to that 1 year or 3 year plan of what does it look like? Who else do you have on your org chart in those future models, and then figure that out. Like what are those positions we're adding, and where would that this person or this position fit in that growth? So,
Exactly.
well, I think step
Exactly.
number 1 is having that plan.
It really is. It
It
all
really
comes
is.
from the plan, because if you start making decisions or making moves outside of the plan, you might get lucky and accidentally hit on something that really will move the ball forward, but then it's a game of luck. It's not a game of entrepreneurship and business ownership.
Hey, ladies, if you're enjoying our conversation today with Vicky and myself, I encourage you to jump over to our website, that's tina-sue.com, and check out the information, because everything that we're talking about here on recruiting and building a team and being in advance of all that and being proactive is exactly what our course Strategic Shift is all about. So everything from getting that plan in place for the 3-year vision of who are you going to have on your team, and what does that look like, and what's the career ladder, and how is your business going to grow? If that is all kind of intimidating intimidating to you, go check it out, because this course would actually walk you through everything from your big vision to the leadership to the financials and everything that you need to do. But specifically to help you with the leadership and recruiting piece, we have a module just for that alone. So again, that's over at tina-sue.com. Watch the free video, and if it's interesting to you, go ahead and check it out. I'm here to help you through this journey. All right, before we dive back in, I want to take a moment to talk about something that can take what you're learning today in this episode, as well as our previous episodes, and turn it into something that is real strategic growth for your business. For example, if you're feeling inspired by what you're hearing today, maybe you want to improve your leadership. Maybe you want to refine your systems. Maybe you want to build a more scalable business. Maybe you just want to get out of your own way and break free from those limiting beliefs that may be holding you back. If are you feeling that way, then you are exactly the kind of entrepreneur who will thrive in our strategic shift program. You see, it's designed for women entrepreneurs just like you, who are established, ambitious, and ready to build something that is not just successful today, but is positioned for more growth, long-term value, and freedom, right? That's why we're in business in the first place. In this program, you'll get proven framework, tools and resources, financial insights, strategic mindset shifts, everything that you need to work methodically through the growth of your business. And the best part is it grows with you. This isn't a course that you just take once and has basic business information in it. This is something that has the actual tools as if you were working alongside a coach to help you build the foundation and continue to build on it year after year as you continue to scale. It's even designed to work with your leadership team once you get to that point in your business. So if you're serious about building a business that is valuable today and continues to grow in value while you're not having to work harder, then check out the strategic shift on Tina-Sue. Look for courses and look for strategic shift. So let's get back to our show. Let's jump ahead to, we've hired the right people, business is just trucking along, and how do we retain them? Because like you said, like even in our parents' day, like my parents, my dad literally got the job he retired from at the age of 19. So that is not our world anymore, where you get a job and stay there till retirement, for good and for bad.
Right.
But we can't be thinking like, oh, I just, as long as they're happy and they're not the squeaky wheel of the team, they're just going to be here forever. So how do we make sure that, besides having that career path, culture, ongoing, it's the HR stuff. What do we do to keep them here if we like that employee?
So one of the things that the very first thing you have to do is understand they are not going to be your employee for 15 years.
Let's say that again for the people in the back.
You just got to get it through your head. And I say that because that's something that I've really had to repeat over and over and over to myself, because that is the world that I come from. When I was at HBO, I was there for 15 years. So you can see I've been around for a long time. I was there for 15 years, and that was only part of my career. So you have to understand that that world doesn't exist anymore. People are not going to companies. It might happen, but it's a rarity. It's a unicorn. Mostly people are going to an organization because they want to enjoy what they do. They want to learn something new. They want to have different experiences. And experiences is the critical piece. Yes, have a career pathing plan in place, but also give them different experiences. If their job is to do X, give them an opportunity to at least see what Y is, or help the people who are doing Y do what they're doing, so they get a wide array of experiences. One of the things that makes your company stickier than other companies is that you're giving them opportunity even inside the organization to work across functionalities as opposed to just vertically. That's something that not every company does. If someone is looking for, I don't know, I'm not exactly, I do accounting and that's my thing. I'm a bookkeeper and that's what I do. And I'm not sure if there's anything else that I want to do. I guess I just want to be a bookkeeper. And I don't say that to denigrate bookkeepers. I desperately need a fantastic bookkeeper.
Yeah, it's a specific skill is what it is. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But you know what? Maybe that person, surprisingly, is an amazing content marketing manager and they don't even know it. You don't even know it. It's something they're kind of interested in.
Mm-hmm.
So why not have a day a month where people get an opportunity to go to another department and shadow somebody
I like
and
that.
really experience what their job is, what they're doing on a daily basis.
Yeah, and that's really twofold, right? Because I definitely have coached clients through the cross training. Because if we're all shooting for the North Star, the company goal, we have to understand what the other departments play in that is,
Right.
and in how what they do affects you, and what I do affects them, type of thing. But it also, what you're saying is, it also opens up talents that our staff might not even know that they have. Like, oh my gosh, that was so fun when I was with the marketing department. I'm going to go dabble. And then turns out I'm great at it. I haven't
Exactly.
thought of that. That's awesome.
Might find yourself being an entrepreneur and running a company that you didn't expect to do.
Your side gig turns into a couple decade business.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So it's important to really think creatively around those kinds of things. And it's not, those kinds of things aren't just for the employee. The reality is the company gets incredible value from that because you get fresh ideas, you
Mm-hmm.
get new relationships, you're kind of building new synapses, and
Mm-hmm.
it makes the entire organization stronger.
Yes, yes. All right. So culture is a big piece of that. And do you have, what are some of your key ingredients to having the culture where people do want to stay? I want to come back to also something you said about that performance culture in the in the interview process. This is something that I just was working with a client last week on, several years in business, did similar to what I did in the early days of, like, just treated my staff like we were all friends, but that's not always a high performance business. And then the business gets to a certain point where the staff isn't serving you anymore, and they've kind of had a different culture than what you're looking for, and it's not that performance culture. So one question on that is, can you, and if so, how do you train those people who have been with you for a while, that have been just kind of like, in the early days, growing with you, you're kind of equals, to like, no, I actually have to hold you accountable, and here's where we're going, and you're going to have to grow with it because this is what that position is, to more of that like accountability.
Mhm.
Um, how do you handle that? Because we get a lot of that in this growth stage.
Yeah. That separation from being one of the bunch to being the head of the bunch
Mm-hmm.
is,
Tragic.
yeah, it is. And it can be really painful.
It
And
was
it's
for me.
generally painful for the person who's in the leadership role.
Yeah.
I mean, certainly the, the, the team can, have emotional feelings about it, but the person in the leadership role has all sorts of guilt and concern and, you know, plus you're moving into a different role yourself. You're holding
Mm-hmm.
yourself to a different standard. And that means that you're going through growing pains too. So that whole process can be
Mm-hmm.
really feel like an upheaval. But the thing is, if you don't go through that, you will never be successful. And the reason I say that is
Hands down.
because you cannot, and I get pushback on this occasionally, but you cannot be a strong, resourceful, resilient leader if you are everybody's best friend. You can't do it because some of the decisions you're going to have to make, your responsibilities to the organization. And
Mm-hmm.
people say to me, well, why do you say it's not about the organization, it's about the people? I love the people. Exactly. The success of the organization feeds all the families of all of your employees.
Mm-hmm.
So keeping your eye on the organization and the success of the organization is the best thing you can do to support all of those people you care so much about.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes that means, to quote Spock, the needs of the many and the needs of the one. So sometimes that means that someone's not right, or someone is a detriment to the success of the organization, and you might have to let them go. That's a different thought process when that's your best friend, or
Mm-hmm.
that's a comrade that you hang out with all the time.
Yeah, or the person who helped you grow the last 3 years, or, I get that a lot, like,
Exactly.
they were my number 1 employee, and I didn't pay them well, and they went through all the grind with me. It's like, yes, that's great, but that's not the person who's going to be with you for the next 10 chapters.
That's exactly right. And that is a common problem
Yes,
because
it is.
you are in love with the people who trusted you in the beginning when all
Yeah.
you could give them was, a paperclip and a dream.
Yeah,
So,
and, mine was Starbucks. I would treat them to
exactly, exactly. And
Starbucks.
so be generous with those people. Give them a good exit package. Talk to them and be transparent with them, because the reality is they are now coming into work every day and feeling frustrated. They're
Mhm.
frustrated because they used to be in every conversation and they're not now. They're frustrated because things are happening that they don't know about. They're frustrated because they're not being asked their opinion about every single, left turn, right turn that they
Yep.
used to get. They are
Mhm.
frustrated because they see other people coming in and taking on roles or taking on responsibilities that they thought were in their bailiwick. They're frustrated because if they're trying to hold on to all of that, things are beginning, balls are beginning to fall off the plate now because there's so much to be done. So you're
Mhm.
not doing them any favors. You are
Yep.
giving them the Sunday scaries, is what you're doing. You are
Yep.
putting them in a position where they're trying with all of their might to be as valuable and resourceful as they feel they have been throughout the history of the organization with you, but it's not a physical possibility now because of the needs and the requirements of the organization. So you're not doing them any favor. You're not doing the organization any good, and you're not doing yourself any good because every day you're feeling awful about the fact that you're very angry that they are not living up to expectations, but you really don't want to have a conversation with them about this because it's going to be a whole emotional thing. So you've got to set yourself, put on your leadership jacket, and understand that sometimes that can be lonelier than you would like it to be, which is why communities like this are so vitally important, because
Mhm.
you need people who understand the challenges that you're facing and the questions that you have on your plate, and why you wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, tossing and turning, trying to figure out how you're going to talk to Sue Ann. You need
Mhm.
other people who understand that. But
Yeah.
those people are not your team members.
Definitely, you can't talk to the other team that you're gonna have a chat with Sue Ann because she's not
Exactly.
performing. Those are
That
not the
is
people to talk
exactly
to.
right. And if you
Yes.
do that, and I've seen people do that because they feel like, John is just really their confidant. John is not your confidant. John is a member of the team. John
Yeah.
has his own needs and aspirations. And any communication that you're giving John, first of all, you are the leader, you are the boss, basically. So,
Setting an example for sure.
exactly, exactly. And you're not doing anything good for, any of the rest of the team members. So you
Mhm.
really have to be careful and really be clear with yourself around how you set yourself apart. You can be a benevolent leader, you can be a collaborative leader, you can be a servant leader, you can be all of those things. But the point is, you've got to be a leader.
Mhm. I want to repeat something that is very important, and that is you're not alone. The people who got you from point A to point B and possibly B to C are very likely not the same people to get you to point D, E, F, and all the way to Z. So when if you're in that growth mode, you've had a couple staff, and you're just not seeming to be able to get to the next level with the people that you have working for you right now, it's very, very common, and you just have to think what's best for the company, and like you said, best for them, because they don't want to come to work and feeling like an underperformer. So yes, I wanted to
Exactly.
make sure everyone heard that it is common so much.
I would say probably, I mean, I'm going to make this up, but I'd say 90% of entrepreneurs
I
go
was gonna say,
through
I don't know anyone who hasn't gone through it,
that.
who's actually grown
Mhm,
a staff beyond, 2, 3 people. Like
mhm,
if you're growing a business, that's just the nature of the game.
right,
Uh, Maybe there's some super strategic person out there who, I should say in your first business. In the second business, you know
true,
what you're recruiting for
right.
right
Mm,
off the bat. But in your first business, it's very like I'd say, yeah, 95%.
mhm,
Yeah. So you might have to fire some of your besties. And I did. There's a whole podcast on peeing in the pool and
um,
having to pretty much clean house and start over at one point in my early career. Won't be doing that again.
yeah, that's painful. It's really
It is.
painful, but unfortunately, it really is not unusual. And the people who don't do it don't get to the next step.
I was just gonna say, honestly, it was very painful. It was a very difficult year because it doesn't happen overnight either.
Mhm.
But that is, if you look at the company growth, sure, I was growing before then and, year after year, some growth, but it was really the hockey stick. When I changed as a leader, like you said, I changed the staff that was had the same vision and, was all for the growth and production and all of that. So it made a world of difference in the business. And, I had to do some growing and put my big girl panties on.
It's true. It's true.
It's
And
true.
that's the thing about leading a company and leading a team. The most difficult, most challenging, and most rewarding part of it is who you have to step into.
Hmm.
It's your
Yes. And now I
personal
teach
growth.
others. So it's like I can
Hmm.
tell you what not to do because I did it just like everyone else in their first business usually does it. So like I'm trying, that's what the whole point of the podcast is. Let's not do the things that we shouldn't do. Learn from us.
Exactly.
Um, so we've talked about the recruiting, we've talked about the pre-recruiting, right? And then we talked about the recruiting and onboarding and really having that experience, the career ladder, the culture. We just sort of dabbled in the when we have to let someone go.
Mhm.
What does that look like? Any experience that or things that you're seeing commonly with the clients that you're working with that we should share with our listeners?
Sure, absolutely. So do not be this person. And we've all been this person, but do not be this person. Vicky showed up late. That annoys me. Oh, but she's really, really good at other stuff. So I'm not going to have a conversation with her. She showed up late again. That annoyed me again. She's still showing up late. Hmm. It's 6 months in. She's late every day. Month 7. I'm just going to fire her. You haven't had a conversation with Vicky. She has no idea that this might be a really big deal for you.
Mm-hmm.
That whole I'm not going to have a conversation with her because she's so good at so many other things and she does the rest of her job so well. This is such a small part. Every part of the job is part of the job. That's
Mm-hmm.
that's what I tell
That's a
people.
big part of culture, showing up on time. Why would I
Absolutely.
show up on time if Sally doesn't have to?
There you go. And
Hmm.
so anything that's not happening, maybe the report has to happen every Friday at 10 a.m., but Sally is consistently getting the report to everybody at 11 or 11:30 or noon. Every part of the job is part of the job. And as time goes on, if there's a part of the job that's not being done, that becomes a bigger deal as time goes on. So the fact
Hmm.
that you haven't had conversations with Vicky, that's on you. When you get to month 7 and all of a sudden you just want to fire her, no, look at it from Vicky's viewpoint. She's been doing her thing. She thinks everything is, puppies and roses. She's
You're
fine.
bringing her Starbucks when you bring everybody else a
Absolutely. And
latte.
now all of a sudden you want to let her go. That's what it feels like to her. So you haven't done her any favors. And actually, from the viewpoint of who we are as business owners and leaders, we're being a little bit
Catty?
we're not stepping up. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Hmm. We're,
Yeah.
we're just, we're not stepping up. And
Yeah.
so, and doing our job. So, for whatever reason, and it's probably some
It's scary.
combination of fear and lack of, a lack of confrontation gene or something, and you just don't
Yeah.
want the
Skill.
hassle. Hmm.
Yeah, especially newer entrepreneurs like the first
Absolutely.
business. The tough
Absolutely.
conversations are tough for because they're tough.
That's right. Which is why I say have them early and have them often because The only time they feel as bad as you think they're going to feel is when someone feels surprised. So if Vicky shows up late, say, hey, I noticed you weren't on time this morning. That's a thing that we do here. We're on time. So please be on time. It's a
Mhm.
casual conversation, it's an aside. You can just say it and move on. It doesn't have to be a federal case. The second time, oh, I know we had a quick chat before and I mentioned about being on time. And you're still not on time. So I need you to make every effort possible to be on time. Is there some reason, is there something I can help you with? There's something, some support that you need to do that? No, no, it's fine. Okay, great. That's fine. The third time, Vicki, can you come into my office and sit down for a moment?
Mm.
Yes, it's going to feel like it's a big deal. It should feel like it's a big deal because
Mhm.
Vicky hasn't understood that this is something that can really be a detriment to her, not only moving forward in her job, but maybe ultimately keeping her job. So you need to impress upon her that this is a big deal. It is important. You are paying attention, and the request that you have made is real. It's a directive. It's not just a casual aside. Yes, the first approach was just a conversational moment because hopefully that'll take care of it. You don't have to bring the hammer down the very first time you mention it. But if it still is not improving by the third time you're having a conversation about it, you want her to sit down, you want to have a conversation, you want to talk about your expectations, you want to write something down and put it in the file,
Mhm.
you want to let her know that this is the last conversation that you're going to have about this particular issue before you have to go to a more formalized process, meaning the formalized warning process, which is not something that you want to do. You are confident she can take care of this issue at this point and then move on. If she still doesn't do that, then don't go back on your word. Put her in a warning process. I do not care how good she is at
Mhm.
the rest of her job because, as I said, every part of the job is part of the job.
Yep.
So if she's still not showing up on time, that is a huge performance issue because she hasn't corrected it. That's why it got so big, because she has not corrected it after you have mentioned to her over and over again and been explicit about what your expectations were. So when you go through all that, by the time you get to the point where unfortunately someone has not improved and maybe you have to let them go, it is not a surprise to them. Now, I am not ridiculous enough to think that you'll say, okay, Vicky, we've had all these conversations and you haven't improved. I'm going to have to let you go. And Vicky says, oh, I completely understand. No problem. That'll happen 1% of the time in your career. Most of the time, the employee will go, what are you talking about? I had no idea, blah, blah, blah. And you've had a number of conversations with them. So I'm not naive enough to think that just because you've had conversations and I'm saying it won't be a surprise to the person, that they won't act like it's a surprise to them,
Mm.
because that is a
Mhm.
self preservation tool that human beings use. So just expect it. The reality is, you have had all these conversations. You've given her ample time to improve this particular performance issue, and she hasn't. So you're going to have to let her go. Do not have a lot of back and forth. Do not change your mind. Take it from someone who was a baby HR person, and my very first termination lasted, wait for it, 7.5 hours. 7.5 hours.
That was the first time you ever fired someone
I
was
I terminated her,
that was a lot of discussion.
and she was like, I don't understand what you're talking about, blah blah blah.
That's
So
a
then
whole
we
day. That's
went
crazy.
through everything tit for tat, and then so that was that conversation, which was about an hour and a half, something like that. And then she's like, well, okay. And then she had to go around to everyone in the office one at a time and say goodbye. And then she had to pack up her desk. And then she went to lunch. She came back. I
Oh.
mean, listen, that kind of thing, I'm telling you, because that experience, and this goes back to what you're saying, you are here to help your community so that they can learn from some experiences that you've had, and maybe you can keep them from having to have those experiences. They can just
Mhm.
hear about them and understand how to avoid them. Take it from me, if you're going to terminate someone, it needs to be a half-hour conversation max. You tell them, I've had this conversation with you about what the expectations were. Unfortunately, you have not lived up to the expectations. Your performance has not lived up to the expectations. And so we're going to have to let you go. Here's the termination package. This is what happens next. We're sending you
Here's your
your
box.
things, and just exactly move through it. You cannot have people hanging around. You cannot start relitigating. Well, I didn't know, you didn't say, I don't know, that didn't happen. You can't do any of that. Don't even look like you're about to change your mind, because you're not. By the time you're at the conversation of having a termination conversation, you should be clear about the action that you're taking. And so
Yes.
you're not going to change your mind. Move them through what the next steps are and get them out the door. Because anything else, you know, crying, um, getting angry, all of those kinds of things. And the last thing you should do, because the one of the things that's the most painful, is having to terminate someone who's just a good person that you just like
Yep.
so much
Which happens a
personally.
lot. It
It does
happens a lot.
happen. And actually those are the people who say, "Okay, I understand." And that just breaks your heart even more. You, as the
It does.
person holding that meeting, there's no crying. There's no crying in termination. You cannot sit
Oh, yeah.
there and cry about it. You can't sit there and feel, so I'm so sorry I have to do that. No, there, because all of that is for you. And
Yes.
what you have to keep your eye on in a termination conversation is that you need everybody to get out with as much of their personal dignity as is possible. That will give you, from just a human point, that will give you the best opportunity to let them go on and fly somewhere else, and give you the best opportunity to do the job that you're there to do and move on. If you allow people to relitigate, or go through a long litany of whatever, or you start breaking down because it feels like such a difficult, challenging thing for you to do, you are not allowing them to maintain their dignity. You're not
Yep.
firing a child, you're firing a fully grown adult who gets to behave as an adult. So don't take that from them. It's not that they're a bad person, it's that what they brought to the table, skills wise or experience wise or whatever it was not what you needed for that position. What Vicky is bringing to the table as far as her attendance is not what you need for that position. So Vicky's
Hmm.
not a bad person, she's just not a fit for your expectations. And so keep that in mind. Keep in mind that everybody gets to keep their dignity. And if you come from that mindset, you'll be on solid ground.
Yes, and I'll share an experience that for all of the recruiting and terminations that I've had to do. One of my businesses was in home health, so we were
Mm,
recruiting at all times, nonstop. Uh, but it is hard, especially when you're a nice person and you have to let someone go. You know, they've got babies at home or whatever the situation is. But the documentation that you said, obviously that's from a legal standpoint, so that you have the documentation of I did give this person a chance to correct their performance, and whether it's skill or soft skills like showing up on time, right?
mhm,
But I loved to document them because then I could sleep at night knowing, okay, I gave Sally enough chances. I have given her the tools and the resources to do her job better. I have coached her. I have, done everything in my power to have her be successful in that job. So for me, writing it down was my own, it was for me.
mhm,
Sure, we threw it in the file to, in case for legal
mhm,
purposes, but it really was for me as the owner to say, like, okay, I have done my job. Because there's definitely been times where I wanted to terminate someone and I hadn't given them my all. Right.
mhm.
So then I would be, okay, I'm going to go do this, this, and this. And then if we're still having the issue, then I know I've done my part. So it was also like a check for me to make sure as a leader, I was doing what I needed to do for that employee and the company.
Of course. And I want to highlight something that you just said that I think is critically important for everyone to really hear. You didn't just say, I want you to improve this performance. You then supported them in
Mhm.
improving it. So, tools, training, coaching, whatever it was, you don't go to someone and say, every report you put out is awful, do better. And that's the end of the conversation. You want to understand, where are they falling down? How can you support them? How can you help them improve? Because it's better for you to retain that employee. It's cheaper
Yes,
for you to retain that
it's
employee.
cheap. I was supposed to say the cost of the training and everything going into having a person on your team it's cheaper to get them to the point where you want them to be if they have the skills and the commitment to do so.
Absolutely. So, if you do all your steps, you'll be in good stead when and if you get to that situation where you have to let someone go. But then you just do it, and you take care of it, and you move on.
Yep.
So
you have your list. You can sleep at night knowing that you've done what you needed to do as the leader. But
precisely.
I needed to sleep at night, so
Me too.
Yes, we have covered so much here, Vicky. Everything from the beginning to the very end, and the mistakes that we've made. So hopefully, our listeners are taking notes and are really thinking about their plan, so that they can proactively look at the recruiting, look at the career ladders, be proactive versus reactive in all of these things, especially on the termination side as well. So proactive the very first time someone is not up to that performance culture that you're hopefully building. So any last words for our audience?
I would just say, don't be afraid of, I'll call it the leadership jacket. Don't be afraid of that. You only get in trouble when you put it half on, half off. You have to really, really step into the role. It will be incredibly rewarding and valuable for you. And lean into the community. A community like this is absolutely invaluable because you can get the first of all, you get the benefit of people who've walked the walk that you're now walking. And second of all, you get the support because they understand what you're going through. They understand the challenges that you're facing. And you're getting support from the right places. So getting that support then doesn't undermine your efforts inside your organization. So community is everything. I have, a small group of entrepreneurs that we have a quarterly meeting. It's not even a mastermind or anything. We just get together and have lunch and, chat. That is incredibly valuable to me. So definitely lean into the community and you'll be fine.
Awesome. And I know if people want to work with you have a podcast as well. So if HR is the thing that's keeping you awake at night, they definitely should check you out there. And then if people wanted to work with you and your team, what would that look like and how would they reach you?
Cool. Well, so we are an outsourced HR department. Basically, we're HR in a box. So we are the department for our clients, and we work with clients nationwide. I would say our sweet spot is from 40 employees up to 100 employees. And you can get me at vickybrownhr.com. I actually managed to get that.
We'll include that in the show notes too.
Excellent. And we have a little gift for everyone as well. So if you go to vickybrownhr.com/podcast gift, we have a little, little overview of going through various HR processes, onboarding, offboarding, things like that. So
perfect. We will include all of that. I enjoyed so much. I wish we could have talked for about 5 hours today, if not longer, because we just barely touched on a lot of the issues of when you have people on your team. It's a people business, no matter what business you're in. So appreciate you. Probably have you come back and we can go deeper into some of these conversations. But again, thank you.
Thank you so much. I had a wonderful time today.
Me too.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Please be sure to hit subscribe on your favorite podcast platform so you never miss an episode. The Women Choosing Growth Show is not just another podcast. It's a tribe of women helping each other grow. So please share this podcast with all the women entrepreneurs that you would love to see succeed. If you'd like to know more about customized business advising through Cultivate Advisors, download business tools, or sign up for upcoming events, visit www.womenchoosinggrowth.com. Once again, that's www.womenchoosinggrowth.com. Remember, we are in this together. See you on the next one.